So I know I haven't done one of these actually sit down movie reviews in a while, and it's actually kind of weird to be recording myself. Because the last video I did was a commentary, and I haven't really done anything since. But this is a movie that I just have to talk about. I have to get my thoughts out. Um, I just got back maybe an hour ago from seeing Spider-Man: Far From Home, and uh, I was not a big fan of Homecoming. There was a lot of things with Homecoming I just didn't like or didn't agree with. Um, I love Tom Holland as Spider-Man, but the movie itself felt kind of lackluster to me. So going into this, I was excited to see Tom Holland again, but I was kind of apprehensive about where they were going to go. I was excited with Jake Gyllenhaal, who was my favorite actor, to be playing Mysterio, but there was a lot of things that I just wasn't sure about. And this movie completely uh, floored me. I mean, it took everything that I didn't like about the first movie and fixed it. It fixed everything. And that's crazy to me. One of my biggest problems was the AI of the suit. Not because he has an AI in the suit, but because it's telling him how to use the suit and his web shooters. And that's something I didn't like, because Spider-Man knows how to use his web shooters. Spider-Man doesn't need different settings on his suit to shoot different kinds of webs. He knows how to shoot different kinds of webs because he's Spider-Man. That was a big complaint of mine from Homecoming. I also, in Homecoming, MJ, Zendaya's character, just I didn't understand the use for her. She wasn't bad in the movie. A lot of people said she was bad, but I just feel like she didn't have really anything to do. They completely fixed that in this movie. She is probably one of my favorite characters in this movie. Actually, it has a really good journey throughout the movie. I buy everything in this movie. There's a few things here and there that I didn't like, but overall, I mean, I really enjoyed it. So before I get too in depth, I do want to say this is a spoiler review, so there will be spoilers for Spider-Man: Far From Home and for Avengers: Endgame. So if you haven't seen either of those, turn away. But I will tell you, I very much enjoyed this movie, and you should go see it and Endgame as soon as possible. So let's get into it. First of all, obviously, going to Europe, so it's hence the title Far From Home. So this movie is the first Spider-Man movie to not predominantly take place in New York City, which is really cool just because you get to see Spider-Man in different situations, you get to see different suits. Um, I loved how much more screen time Zendaya got. She is actually great in this movie, extremely well developed character. And Zendaya often gets labeled as a bad actress, and I honestly don't think she's a bad actress. I mean, she's not gonna win an Oscar anytime soon or anything, but I think she's a very good young actress and has great potential moving forward. Um, but her chemistry with Tom Holland is fantastic in this movie. You completely buy the relationship, and it's so relatable as a high school relationship. Like everyone who's been in a high school relationship can relate to that, and they understand it. You know how they play it off as kind of awkward, and all of that stuff. So their relationship is great. One of my few complaints about this movie is Ned. Ned, who is one of the things I actually loved about Homecoming, kind of takes a back seat in this movie. He doesn't have a lot to do. He develops a relationship with Betty Brant that's pretty much just played off as a joke for the entire movie. He does a couple of things here or there to help Peter out, but for the most part, uh, he really doesn't have much to do, and that's really disappointing considering how much I liked Ned in the first movie. So I hope in the third movie they give Ned a pretty prominent role again, because he was pretty much just comedic here, which he was in Homecoming too, but he had more layers to that. Jake Gyllenhaal proves once again why he is one of, if not the best actor in the world today. I mean, this dude, I mean, he's so charismatic and charming, and then you get that flip midway through the movie, and you're just like, I knew it. Because you don't trust him, because you know going in, Mysterio's a villain. You know Mysterio's a villain, but in the back of your mind throughout the movie, you're just like, man, he may be a good guy. I don't know. He might turn out to be good, but no, he ultimately does turn around and is the villain of the movie, and he's played so well. Jake Gyllenhaal is so good at it, and he's actually a very commanding presence for a guy who's basically just playing make believe, and he's so intimidating in a way. And the whole first sequence where he's giving allusions to Spider-Man is just so fantastic, and it's Mysterio brought to life. And I never thought I would see that in a Spider-Man movie because there's so much crazy stuff with special effects and everything that you'd have to do, and it's something that's left in the animated series and the comics. but they did it so well in this movie. My friend Jake, who I went and saw this movie with, actually told me, he's like, this is what Scarecrow should have been in Batman. And I completely agree with him. The way he tricks Spider-Man with the illusions and, sends him scrambling and just completely boggles his mind. That's what Scarecrow should have been for Batman. And I love that. I love that he said that, and it made perfect sense. But Mysterio, I mean, he tricks everyone in this movie. He tricks Peter. He tricks um, Nick Fury. He tricks Maria Hill. He tricks basically the entire world up until the end of the movie, and they're still pretty much tricked afterwards. I mean, you see this turn, and you know what he's capable of, and you see where he's going, and I mean, you still you know Spider-Man's gonna win, but you know something's gonna happen, right? The whole third act, I think, is probably one of the best third acts in a Marvel movie. The stakes felt high, but not too high. Like, this wasn't a world-ending event, but it was a very serious event, and something that Spider-Man would be able to handle, something he would take care of. Peter's arc in this movie is amazing. He's very much wants to tell the girl he loves how he feels. He wants to enjoy being a high schooler, and he wants to have his life. But he's slammed with all this responsibility of being Spider-Man, much like in Spider-Man 2, which is my favorite movie of Spider-Man. So seeing that storyline, because it's a classic Spider-Man storyline. I mean, that's why people love Spider-Man so much, is because they can resonate with them. And I mean, it was just great to see that. And he goes from he's mourning the loss of Tony, and he's struggling with his place. People are looking up to him like, you're gonna be the next Iron Man. And he's like, I don't know if I can be. And that's ultimately what gives Mysterio his power in the movie, is that throughout this trick that he pulls on Peter trusts Mysterio, and he goes, you should be the next Iron Man. You got it all figured out. I'm just a kid. And he gives him Edith, which is the system that Tony gave Peter that basically lets him control a ton of Stark tech. And that's what sets this all off. And there's a great conversation that Happy has with Peter, where he basically tells him, hey, Tony was a mess. Tony was always second guessing himself, never knew what he was doing, but he never second guessed you. And he wanted you to have this, and he trusted you to have this. And it really pumps Peter up. And then, Peter starts making his new suit, and the way Happy looks at him, he sees Tony, and the audience sees Tony. And then, of course, he plays some AC/DC, and you get the joke that, Peter thinks it's Led Zeppelin, and it's really funny. But it's a great character moment for Peter, because it's him realizing, I'm not going to be Iron Man, but the world still needs somebody, and I'm somebody who can do that. And I'm never going to fill those shoes, because nobody can fill those shoes. But I can go off and be my own person, and I can help the world just like Tony did. And that's one of the, I feel like it's the second part of his journey. Is the first movie, he's accepting the fact that he's got these powers, and he's got to help people. In this movie, it's him stepping up and realizing he has to become a bigger part of the world, and he has to become a hero before Tony, because that's what Tony wanted him to be. Tony wanted him to be better. And so he's really on this journey to becoming, in my opinion, the hero of the MCU. So we'll see where that goes in the third movie. But everything about this movie, it just worked. It clicked. It clicked so well. They talk about it a lot, and this is one of my problems with the movie, is the joke about the Peter tingle. It's funny the first time, but then it gets worn out. It's like, just call it Spidey sense. We all know it's Spidey sense. But I love the fact that they keep talking about it, and he's like, it's not working. And then in the final fight, he uses the spider sense to defeat Mysterio's illusions. And the part where he thinks Mysterio has been shot and died, and he's talking to him, and all of a sudden you see him grab something, and a gunshot goes off, and that was actually part of his illusion. It was very clean. It was very nice. And it showed off the Spidey sense in a way that really ticked me off about Homecoming, because we never got any kind of sense of Peter Parker's spider sense, which is an essential part of Spider-Man's character. I mean, that's one of his main abilities. So I love that we have that in this. The comedy works very well in this movie. I think comedy hits on all cylinders. Like I said, besides the Peter tingle, I think it's good. The relationship between Ned and Betty, while I am, kind of upset that Ned didn't get a larger role, his comedic chops are still good. I mean, it's still funny. And the relationship between May and Happy is very funny. That's another one of my complaints about this movie. It's the same complaint I had about Homecoming. I want to see more Aunt May because we still haven't seen a ton of her. She has this super close relationship with Peter, and I want that to be displayed more. Aunt May is a central part of who Peter Parker is. It's the woman who raised Peter Parker, and even though she's his aunt, she's really his mom. And that's something that needs to be showcased more, and I want to see the relationship develop more, and I want them to actually showcase that in the next Spider-Man movie. I hate to bring up the Raimi trilogy because I know some people hate it. I love the Raimi trilogy, and that's one of the best parts about it is the relationship between May and Peter. Especially in Spider-Man 2, you have that scene when they're cleaning out the garage, and they have that talk about what it is to be a hero, and that just shows it's so good. And I like Marissa Tomei as Aunt May. She's great. A lot of people are like, she's too young. Aunt May needs to be an elderly woman. I don't buy that. Characters go through different interpretations all the time, and I like Marissa Tomei as Aunt May. I just want her to be more involved in the films. I understand why she wasn't in this one because they were in Europe, but still, she still had more to do in this one than Homecoming, which is crazy considering Homecoming was in New York. So I hope we see more of her in the next one, and I think we will. I'm actually very curious, based off where this ends, to what direction they go in with the next Spider-Man movie. But at the end of the day, of course, Spider-Man does defeat Mysterio. Quentin Beck dies, but you see some of his cronies saving some of that tech, so we don't know where that goes in the future. Of course, the after-credit scene, he's swinging around with MJ. It's very funny. And then it turns damper very quick, where a news report comes on, and Quentin Beck is being hailed as a martyr and a hero, and Spider-Man a murderer. The footage has been doctored, and then we get this big reveal of J. Jonah Jameson back in Spider-Man. We haven't seen this character since Spider-Man 3, and to make things even better, he is portrayed once again by J.K. Simmons. And I freaked out in the theater. I freaked out. J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson is one of the best casting decisions in the history of comic book films. And to have him back, despite it being the second reboot of the series since he left, is awesome. It's amazing. I loved it. And, J. Jonah Jameson basically says, yeah, Spider-Man's a menace. Mysterio will go down as the greatest hero in the history of our world. And he basically says, he says there's another crazy part to this tape, and Quentin Beck, before his death, reveals that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, and Peter is left stunned and roll credits. So Peter Parker's identity is out, and Mysterio, as his last trick before death, has tricked everyone into believing that Peter Parker is a murderer and he was a martyr. And so that leaves crazy implications for the future of the MCU, for the future of Spider-Man. Where does this go? When are we going to see this brought up again? Are we not going to see Spider-Man again until the next Spider-Man movie? Is he going to pop up in another movie before then? Because we're really not sure about the Marvel slate going forward for now. We know some movies are in development. We know some aren't. We know they're doing a lot of Disney Plus stuff. So we'll see where it goes in the future. But I'm really excited. I thought it was a nice twist. And then you get the second after credit scene with Nick Fury and Maria Hill in a car. And all of a sudden they change and it's Skrulls and it's Talos. And they're basically filling in for Nick Fury while he's out doing some intergalactic stuff with some of the other Skrulls, probably scouting, looking for threats that could possibly be of concern for Earth. And so it really shows that something's going on. We're going to get to see a lot more Skrulls, which I love. I love the Skrulls, and I love the flip they did in Captain Marvel where the Skrulls are actually good guys. So I really like it. I like that they're back. I love that we got Ben Mendelsohn back as Talos because I love Ben Mendelsohn and everything. So that was really nice, and we're going to see Nick Fury doing some stuff on a more intergalactic level now, which is cool. And it opens up a lot of stuff that happened within the MCU where most of the stories have been on Earth, and we've gone out into space and the galactic a little bit, but now we're really going to push to go out there with Adam Warlock probably coming in Guardians 3, with Nova probably coming soon. with Fantastic Four probably coming soon. We're going to get very much more intergalactic, and it's going to be great. And I love hinting at that in this after credit scene. I was expecting something bigger, I was expecting like a Green Goblin reveal or maybe a Fantastic Four tease, but I'm still happy with what we got. I mean, this was an incredible movie. Um, it's my second favorite Spider-Man movie. It's not better than Spider-Man 2, but it's damn close. It's damn close, and it's a hell of a ride. Might be my new favorite MCU movie, at least my favorite MCU solo movie. Endgame, right there, so it may not be better than Endgame, but it's definitely my favorite MCU solo movie. And I had a blast in the theater. It flew by like that. I mean, it was just, this movie did no wrong for me. Like I said, some issues, but for the most part, I enjoyed it. I loved it. It's, I like Spider-Man 3, unlike most people, but I completely understand the complaints, and that they're fair complaints. I'm not a fan of the Amazing Spider-Man movies, and I didn't really care for Homecoming all that much. So going into this, walking out, for me, it was the first time since 2004 that I felt like I was watching a new Spider-Man movie. Live action anyway, because Spider-Verse, completely felt like Spider-Man, and it was amazing. But it's the first time I felt in a long time, since 2004, I felt like I was watching a new live action Spider-Man, and it was fantastic. I loved it. I thought it was so well done. Like I said, I had a few problems with like Ned and May not getting featured as much. So hopefully that's something that can be fixed. But for the most part, I mean, they hit the ball out of the park here. Much better than Homecoming for me. I know there's people that love Homecoming. I'm not in that camp. I think it's okay, but I have a lot of issues with it. But this movie for me is definitely a huge improvement. I can't wait to see what they do next with Spider-Man. And it's such a good time to be a comic book fan, a Marvel fan, and a big geek, because especially a Spider-Man fan. I feel like we're in a Spider-Man renaissance right now with Spider-Verse, with the MCU, with the Spider-Man PS4. I mean, we're in the golden age of Spider-Man, and it's amazing. And so it's just such a good time, and to see where this franchise goes and see where the character of Spider-Man goes from here is going to be amazing. Um, I'm hoping that in the next movie we get introduced to Miles Morales, because he's hinted at in Homecoming, and we do know after the snap people grow older, so maybe Miles has aged 5 years, maybe he didn't get snapped, and so he's closer to his teenage years now, and he's closer to becoming a Spider-Man, so maybe we'll get that. I want to see more J. Jonah Jameson, because J.K. Simmons is now in universe as J. Jonah Jameson. I want to see more Spider-Man villains, because Spider-Man, if you ask me, has the best rogues gallery of any superhero. I mean, the closest is Batman, and he does have the Joker, but I mean, after that, his villains aren't as strong as Spider-Man's. You got Goblin, you got Doc Ock, you got Mysterio, you got Kraven, Vulture. I mean, there's so many good Spider-Man villains to pull from. I really want to see Kraven. I really want to see Doc Ock again, played by Mark Hamill. That would be amazing. I want to see Goblin again, because I love the Norman Osborn Peter relationship, and I would love to see Harry Osborn brought in at some point too. Probably not as a villain. I would just keep him as one of his best friends, but it'd be cool to explore. But there's just so many things you can do, so I hope they bring a lot more Spider-Man villains into the fray, because I love Spider-Man's villains, and both of the Spider-Man villains so far have knocked out of the park. I thought Vulture was great, despite me having a lot of problems with Homecoming, and I thought Mysterio was fantastic, and obviously he's played by my favorite actors, so that's going to leave me with some bias, but Jake Gyllenhaal did a fantastic job. I love Jake Gyllenhaal and everything, and I kind of hope, I hope Mysterio comes back, but, and my friend Jake, pointed out this again, that, Jake Gyllenhaal's character is dead. Quentin Beck, he's dead. But that doesn't necessarily mean Mysterio is. Mysterio could come back in some form or another. His entire team is still alive, so we could see something. And that'd be very interesting, and I'd be into it. And, I adored this movie, and I loved it, and I can't wait to see what Marvel has in store for us in the future with Spider-Man, and with the series in general. And, with them pretty much having all their characters back besides Spider-Man and, Hulk. They can't get a solo movie for Hulk because of the Universal rights. They pretty much have all their characters, and so, we could be seeing X-Men in the future, Fantastic Four. How great will it be to see a good Fantastic Four movie? I'm so excited. Um, and we have a lot of Disney Plus stuff coming up, so it's a good time to be a Marvel fan, and I'm excited for what the future holds. And that's what I thought of Spider-Man: Homecoming. I really enjoyed it. If I had to give it a rating on a scale from 1 to 10, I give it a 9.5. It's so good. It's such a good movie. I might have to go see it again just because I already want to watch it again. I already want to sit down and watch it again. It's so good, and I can't wait. I cannot wait for what's in store. So thank you guys for watching. If you've seen Far From Home, which I hope you have if you're watching this review, please drop a comment, leave a like, tell me what you thought of the movie. I thought it was fantastic, and just get excited for what Marvel has coming up, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.